Good afternoon. My name is Shan Chen, and I am the local health improvement coordinator for the Healthy St. Mary's Partnership. HSMP is excited to be working with several community partners on the upcoming Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden. We are pleased to come together today with Mariah Dean, the Master Gardener Coordinator at University of Maryland Extension, to highlight some of the health benefits of gardening and the upcoming community garden. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. If you are viewing the session live, please send any questions through the comment platform that you are viewing from. If you have any issues with the comment section on the platform, feel free to email us your question at stmaryspartnership@gmail.com. If you are viewing this as a recording, please send questions to us via email. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Mariah.
Hi, thank you. Start off with an It's always a good way to start a presentation. Again, my name is Mariah Dean. I'm the Master Gardener Coordinator and Home Horticulture Educator for St. Mary's County. I work for University of Maryland, and today I have a presentation on the benefits of gardening. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. They put it in slideshow mode from beginning. All right, so I'm the Master Gardener Coordinator for St. Mary's County, and I am trying to help, as are so many other people in the community, with the new garden in Lexington Park, the Lexington Manor Community Garden at the Passive Park there in Lexington Park. So this is to try to help get everybody excited, and also just spread lots of good information and educate people on the many benefits of gardening. And I always have to go over the spiel of how do I work for University of Maryland in St. Mary's County. So University of Maryland has what is known as the Extension Service, and for the Extension Service, we're in every county in Maryland, all 23 counties plus Baltimore City. The goal of the extension is to extend University of Maryland research into communities where maybe university education isn't possible, or it's just not what's there. We do a lot of agricultural research and things like that. So as extension, we're under the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. And I'm under all of that at the very bottom for the Master Gardeners. The Master Gardeners, you may see us at the library or farmers markets doing plant clinics where we talk to you about all your plant questions. We have multiple other sub-programs, such as the Grow It, Eat It program, where we teach you to grow and then eat your own food. We also have like Grow It, Preserve It, little things like offshoots of the Grow It, Eat It program. We have Baywise, which is all about gardening in ways that are healthy for the Chesapeake Bay. We talk about pollinators and how they're important. We also do some composting demos and education, as well as native plant demonstration gardens and education related to native plants. Some resources that we offer are the Home and Garden Information Center website, which has a whole library of different plant facts and fact sheets and all sorts of awesome plant knowledge. We also have this service called Ask Extension, and it's awesome. You can just log on to the website and then submit all your questions, ideally with pictures, and someone will get back to you within a maximum of 3 days. And it's really great. If I get stumped, I send people there because I get stumped all the time too. I always tell people, don't feel bad if you get stumped. It happens to all of us. And then we also have the Maryland Grows blog, which we just post like updates to it, like seasonally appropriate articles and things like that. So the local programs are going to be St. Mary's County specific, but there are larger state, like Maryland, state level programs. We also have the handbook, which is a really handy resource. All right, so home gardening and community gardening. The United States has a quite a long history of it. One of the most prominent things here that I always talk about when I talk about the history of home gardening is the Victory Gardens in World War II. So, approximately 40% of the food in the United States during World War II was produced in small scale gardens called Victory Gardens or War Gardens. So, there was a lot of push for it. These are some historical flyers for it, like sow the seeds of victory, pitch in and help. They have what's called the Women's Land Army, where women would tend the fields and everything while men were all fighting. Um, so home gardening can be very successful. Um, I didn't really go into the whole history. This isn't a long presentation, so I'm not going to go into the whole history, but I think this is really profound that about 40% of the food in the US was produced in home gardens during World War II. Um, Community and home gardening has been starting to make a big rise again. Michelle Obama started the Let's Move campaign, and a big part of that was all about gardening and getting kids outside. It was all really about combating childhood obesity, and gardening is a really good way to do that. So we have some history where shows how great home and community gardening can be, and now we're starting to recognize it again. So one good benefit of community gardening is it helps with food security. So some places that are like 2 miles away from a place to buy fresh produce is known as a food desert. We actually have quite a few of those in St. Mary's County. Like in rural areas, and a lot of people think, oh, well, it's a rural area. Well, if you don't have a car and there's not a farm stand nearby you, and you didn't have a garden going, what are you supposed to do for food? What are you supposed to do for safe, healthy food? Um, so doing community gardenings can really help. If somebody lives somewhere where they don't have land to grow food, having a community garden is a great way to provide that space for them. Home gardening, community gardening increases access to fresh foods, even not in food deserts, and it also improves our diversity of food. So we don't want a repeat of the 1840s potato famine in Ireland, where they all grew this one type of tuber potato, and then a Phytophthora root rot blight came through and wiped everything out. You can see this infographic. The bottom of it, all the potatoes are the same. If one disease comes, it'll wipe all the potatoes out. If you have diversity of a type of crop like potatoes, you have maybe some russets, some yellows, some reds. If a type of disease comes through, maybe it only hit two of them, and you still have some more left. Plus, I mean, I use russet potatoes for baking, red skins for different things, so it's good to have options. You can diversify your palate as well so you don't get bored of the same old food. And food gardening is a really good way to do that because sometimes it can be hard to find really yummy food at the supermarket. Like, there's different types like turnips, like Hokurai turnips that I've never found at a supermarket, but I found them in gardens, so it's yummy. And food gardening, home gardening, community gardening helps improve the diversity of food. One thing that's really popular in all that is heirloom tomatoes, like pictured here at the bottom. Uh, there's all different types in here, and heirloom tomatoes the seeds have been passed on for like 40 years, so it's really good to help keep them going. And there's all different types of tomatoes. This picture really doesn't do the diversity of heirloom tomatoes justice because there's so many more types than this, but they all are a little bit different, and that goes for all sorts of food. So having the community spaces where we can share seeds with one another as well as grow our own food is really helps improve and conserve the diversity of our food and agriculture. So there are a lot of physical benefits through gardening. Uh, One day when I was at like Fenwick's used bookstore in Leonardtown, I saw this book that was all like "Get Fit Through Gardening," and I was like, I gotta read this. So it's a funny. There's a couple books like that, and they have like exercise regimes for gardening because you can do a whole exercise routine in a garden. Besides from the extra physical activity, which can be mild to moderate in gardens, there's been studies that show that people who grow their own food end up on average doubling their vegetable intake, and this is particularly true for children. It's a really good way to get them to eat more fruits and vegetables because they'll see it grow. They'll get all I did it when I was young. I got all excited, and then they get to eat the food, and that's probably a really good feeling and helps build uh, good self-esteem and healthy kids and a sense of accomplishment in them from a young age that they can grow their own food and they can feed themselves, um, and all that. And if their plants don't make it, that's okay because you can just plant. You can plant another. Um, some other studies have also shown that gardeners have lower BMIs than other people in their communities who don't garden, and gardeners are 30% less likely to be overweight. Some other physical benefits of gardening are obviously fresh air, oxygen, and vitamin D from the sun, which is really healthy for humans. And some other physical benefits are like reduced blood pressure, reduced heart rate. There was another study, so many studies on these, that a 12-week gardening intervention improved physical functional ability, so strength and flexibility, the immune system, muscle strength and flexibility, reduced blood pressure, waist circumference, and cholesterol levels. So there's a lot of really good physical benefits. And I thought this was cool. This is from Harvard Health. So I was looking at this today. I was like, okay, well, they had this whole section on outdoor activity, and it shows you what you burn in 30 minutes if you're 125, 155, or 185 pounds. And they probably have others. Um, but I saw gardening general for all these. It was like 135, 162, 189. Whereas like calisthenics is like it's on par with calisthenics and all sorts of other exercises that people think of when they think of exercising. You know, like push-ups. They think that's what they think of when they think of exercising. They don't think of gardening, but gardening is just as good as those things. So it's really good. I was really like pleasantly surprised to see that. Gardening also has a lot of mental benefits, and of course, a lot of the physical benefits also create some of the mental benefits, like gets your endorphins going, some serotonin, dopamine, all those feel good chemicals that make us humans feel good. Uh, and then the like growing something, watching it grow, that physical act of tending to something, all those good things. Gardening can be very calming, like I said, with children and adults. It can help with self esteem. You're planting something, watching it grow, literally eating the fruits of your labor. So that's very rewarding and provides a good sense of accomplishment. Uh, there was a study recently with dementia patients that found that when they gardened and doing that daily activity, and I think that they still need to do some follow-up studies to figure out exactly what it was, but gardening did help improve cognitive function in patients with dementia. It can reduce depression and anxiety, which has been pretty well known. I took a mental health first aid class, and the teacher said anxiety and depression is a common cold of mental health in America. So a lot of people struggle with it. Anyone does, you're not alone. But gardening can help alleviate some of the mild symptoms of it. Uh, there's also something in soil called Mycobacterium vaccaceae that it's like a bacteria that can help boost serotonin, which, so of course, the act of like being out in the sunshine and feeling the breeze on your face and listening to the birds chirping and eating the yummy strawberries you've been growing and gently tending to is definitely stress relieving. But there's also bacteria that somehow is helpful in boosting serotonin. I don't understand all the science in that, but some of it's good. But I will also say, like, please wear gloves in the garden, because while there is some good bacteria in soil, there's a lot of germs, and you don't want to get some sort of like infection from the soil, which can happen. So I'd really recommend wearing gloves as much as possible. You don't want an infection, and you'll get serotonin other ways being in the garden. And it's also been shown to help people in recovery from addiction, and as well as hospitals. Multiple studies have been done to show that people who have a view of greenery, whether it's a window with a view of trees, or someone brought them a plant or a bouquet of flowers in their hospital room, that view of the greenery has actually been proven to aid in helping people in the hospital recover faster and more efficiently. Studies have been done as far back as 1948 on that. So I think there's a lot to be said about bringing your loved ones a nice bouquet of flowers when they're in the hospital, besides just visiting and bringing something. It can help them. And I put this picture because I was like, what's more zen and relaxing than being in a garden? So it's a good place to be. It's very calming. Uh, if somebody doesn't find it calming, of course, a lot of things with the human mind are subjective. That's okay. But a lot of people do find it really calming, relaxing. And there's a lot of things that people can do. They can kind of find what relaxes them in a garden. There's a lot of opportunity for relaxation in a garden. If they don't like weeding or pruning, well, maybe they can stir the compost or whatever. There's a lot of opportunity there for stress relief. There are a lot of social benefits to gardening as well, which ties into a lot of the mental benefits. It's a really good place if there's a community garden for people who are otherwise isolated. Like, when I think of this, I particularly think of retired folk who went from working every day to retired, and then they're just like, okay, what do? I don't see anyone anymore. I don't really have a schedule. Well, going to a community garden can often help alleviate that isolation. And it's also great in the summertime. My friends are always like, Mariah, do you have zucchini this year? Mariah, do you have, well, they don't say that, but they know. I'm like the vegetable fairy for my friends. So it's good social benefit. You can give them to your friends and family and just watch them smile and enjoy the produce that you grew, which I think increases that sense of self-fulfillment and satisfaction, accomplishment you can get from growing your own food from your garden. You can also barter the produce. Hey, I'll give you a bunch of tomatoes if you, I don't know, change oil in my car. I have no idea. Um, be creative. It's a good thing. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves a gardener friend. Um, and social benefits also include things like potlucks in a garden, garden parties. You want to get together and talk about flowers. There's barbecues in gardens. There's also seed swaps, classes, educational opportunities. There's so many opportunities to connect with one another and build your social networks in gardens and get lots of yummy food. um, Community benefits, in addition to all those community gatherings, maybe you want to put your produce in at the fair. St. Mary's County Fair is coming up September 23rd to the 26th. It can inspire friendly competition. Hopefully nobody gets overly competitive to the point where they're damaging one another. That's not good. Most people, I think, in gardening have friendly competition. It can inspire creativity. Oh, so and so gave me this new type of eggplant. I'll try cooking a new recipe with it. And things like that. There's a lot of good community benefits and community building from gardening and community gardening and even home gardening. Maybe you're out there gardening in your yard one day and somebody says, "My, what a lovely tomato, what a lovely flowers," and you get to talk with your neighbors a little bit. There's a lot of environmental benefits to home gardening. Environmental health is very important, of course. You can save gas money for yourself by not having to go to the store. And it also saves gas and reduces carbon by having your food from one place to your plate instead of like this graphic on the right. The bottom has for food delivery service, it has the farm, then you have to transport it sometimes by train or ship. Then you have to transport it by truck to the grocery store. Then you have to package it up to get ready to go, which is extra materials. Then they have to deliver it, and then it goes to your plate. It's much better for the environment to reduce those carbon emissions and just go from the garden to your plate, from the farm to your plate. Average food from the grocery store travels 1,500 miles, and that's a really long way. The average for more local food is about 56. So that's way better than 1,500. And if you do it yourself, even better. Composting can be great. It can reduce the amount that goes into the landfills. And there is a little bit of carbon sequestration with gardening. It's not a whole lot, but there's something to be said about it. Trees do the most. So that is out of all of these, the carbon sequestration from just home gardening is probably the least beneficial, but it's still there. There are a lot of financial benefits to home and community gardening. I keep saying benefits, but I guess I could have just put ways it improves your health. But benefits are benefits to your financial health. A San Diego study found that 68% of gardeners saved up to $39 a month on grocery bills. 10% saved up to $60 a month on groceries. And not only do they save money during the growing season, but freezing, canning, and otherwise preserving the food can help them save throughout the year. And it's also an opportunity to learn some job skills by gardening. The green field is growing, and a lot of farmers and plant nurseries are always looking for help. So there's opportunity for work in the field as well. And gardening and community gardening, whether at home or in the community, can increase your health by giving you more education. So they're a place to learn. We have a lot of demo plots in St. Mary's County. A lot of the sign gardens have demo plots outside of them. Sign gardens at the county parks, sorry. I'm so used to saying sign gardens, I forgot to say at the county parks. And we have a demo garden outside of our office here, and we're hoping to have a demo garden at the upcoming Lexington Park Community Garden. We're going to have another online presentation on September 28th at 12:30, all about preserving food from your garden. And this is where the Lexington Park Community Garden approximately will be. It'll be at Lancaster Park. We're hoping to have a lot of large plots there, and this is on their Facebook page. And just keep checking back for updates for when it'll open. Hopefully it'll be spring 2023, maybe 24. We are looking for donors to help create the garden and really get it going, get the groundwork going. And a lot of people are working on this. Again, I'm from University of Maryland Extension in the Master Gardener program, alumni of St. Mary's, and all these organizations, plus more not listed, are involved with creating this. There's going to be a lot of benefits to the community, and it's going to be super healthy for everyone. We're going to have a community meeting for community input because it's extremely important and we want to hear what everybody has to say. At the library coming up soon, so keep checking their Facebook page. I can drop the link in the chat for it. But if you search on Facebook Lexington Park Community Garden, Lexington Park, Maryland Community Garden, it should pop up. And check there for updates. Like and follow so you get the updates instead of having to go back and check and everything. But there should be lots of really good opportunities there. So that's all I have. Here's all my links. I'm really excited. Nobody wants to see that. So yeah, thank you for attending today. I hope I didn't bog you all down too much with those numbers.
Mariah, I want to thank you so much for mentioning the Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden as well. I have a link here to our HSMP webpage where we talk about the community garden in further detail. That's the link to also take our community garden survey. So if you are passionate about gardening and you want to provide feedback on how the planning process goes and, give your opinion on how you feel about a community garden, feel free to visit that website and take our survey. Another link I wanted to pop into the box down here is the Facebook page for the Lexington Manor Passive Park Gardens. So feel free to find us on there, like the page, and view the videos and share. We are looking to have it open spring of 2023, and I'm really looking forward to that. One final thing that I wanted to mention, we have a food security survey that we've launched here at our HSMP Environmental Health team. We are looking at food security throughout St. Mary's County, and we want to see which areas are in the most need. So I'll post the link to that as well. That is healthystmarys.com/food security. The survey is available on that webpage, as well as additional resources as well. We do have a couple of questions, and I've got some questions for you too, Mariah, if you want to stick around and answer some of them. So
hopefully I can. If I can, I'm sorry ahead of time. I get stumped every day here.
No worries if you can't. All right. So the first question we have here is, do you have any advice on easy plants to start with in your garden?
I know it's aggressive to answer a question with a question, but I'd have to do it because I'd have to know what your lighting is like in your garden. If it's shade, I'd recommend lettuce or kale. I'd have to know what time of year you're looking to start. I'd have to know how often you're able to water it. I'd have to know what your soil was like. In general, if you have like the perfect ideal conditions, or you have so much different space, you can pick whatever you want. Carrots are really easy. Radish is really easy around here. Tomatoes, not quite as easy. It suffers a lot of diseases and it needs a lot of water, in particular in the summer when it gets really hot, but that's when it likes to grow. Unless it gets above 90, then it's like there's a little temper tantrum. But in general, those are some easy ones. And tomatoes are really easy to figure out when to harvest, like okay, when they're red. And if you want them to ripen on your sink, you can pick them when they got a little bit of red. It just really depends. I would say some of the easiest to start with are like carrots, radish, kale, lettuce, but it really just depends what you're working with.
Awesome. Perfect. I'm going to notate that for later too, because I've been thinking about starting a tomato plant.
Nice.
So I'll reach out to you later about that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I've got some questions on my end. Aside from dedicating time, how much money would it cost to start up a small garden? Let's say I live in an apartment and I want to grow a few things. What can I expect my budget to be?
Okay. So it would depend if you had space to plant it in the ground, like in a community garden. I don't have all of the current prices for everything off the top of my head based on what the costs are. I would try to hit sales, but
Yeah.
one of the things we always recommend you start with is a soil sample, and that we have them here. You can mail them off for like $12. Then you would need, depending on how good your soil is, you'd either need to amend it, which can vary significantly with the cost. Um, or if it's good, I would still recommend, like bare minimum, even if you don't do a soil test, I would really recommend. Like there was one place I didn't do a soil test because someone had already done it recently, and I knew it was good, so I was like, I don't need to do it. But I would really recommend still adding some compost because that organic matter to the soil helps the soil and it adds more nutrition for the plant to be easily absorbed. So I'd recommend getting some compost, whether you get it bulk or if you're doing a small apartment garden, couple bags, depends on how big your space is. You want to spread it about 2 inches maybe, and you can kind of work it into the soil with a fork. Uh, if you're doing container gardens, which is really good for apartments, we have a demo garden at the St. Mary's County Fairgrounds all about growing in containers. You would need to buy containers, and that can vary. You can use a 5 gallon bucket that you got for free as long as there wasn't anything like paint or anything really poisonous in it. Um, Garden potting soil for that, and then however many vegetables and fruits you wanted to grow. A big blueberry plant that's going to be a perennial plant is going to cost you more than a pack of carrot seeds. Uh, so it just depends what you want to grow. Seeds are the cheapest way to start. You can get a pack of seeds for sometimes like 99 cents. And if you have gardening friends, they might just give you some seeds that they had. Uh, and there's certain types, if they give you tomato, you could always, if you know it's a good, like it's an heirloom tomato, you could always save the seeds yourself, and that's a pretty cheap way. You can make the compost yourself even. That'll save even more money. So it can be very inexpensive, or you can go all out and make it like super expensive, like get like the coolest blueberry plant you can find. I don't but it varies. But it can be very inexpensive.
I love that. And I like that you mentioned growing in a container because sometimes, the soil may not be very good. It may be easier to just tend to your plant and bring it indoors and stuff like that. My mom is a very avid gardener, and that's what she does. And she
Oh,
will always try to give me stuff from her garden every time I visit. Like I'm always walking home with like dragon fruit and random vegetables because she's so into it and she can't eat it all. So
yeah.
I love that, and I definitely I hope to get there on that level someday.
You will keep hanging out with your mom. Ask her to teach you. Most of the time, people with gardening are really happy to teach. There's some people who don't like giving their secrets. Like, some people are like, that's my recipe. I'm not sharing it. They might not share all, but hopefully they'll share, especially your mom. I'm sure she'll share.
That's awesome. We'll give another minute for additional questions to roll in if there are any. And I have one final question. It's kind of like a fun question. I wanted to know what kind of competition happens at the county fair. You mentioned, I guess people bring in their produce and they compete over the size or weight, I'm guessing. Could you elaborate more?
Yeah. So I normally help the last 2 years I've helped with 4-H judging, which has been like children in 4-H who will submit like floral arrangements, and we look at it to see how full it is. And then for 4-H stuff they have like a chart of things that they have to follow in order to get like blue ribbon or grand prize. But adults can also submit stuff. I can't remember all the different categories. I'd have to look on the fair website and contact someone from the fair, but they have all different categories. Like if you want to do floral arrangements, excuse me, a lot of master gardener volunteers are also in the garden club, and they submit floral arrangements to the fair for competition. And yeah, like the weight of stuff, like biggest pumpkin, um, fullest flour, things like that. And then, of course, there's also, you can submit, if you bake a really good, like, blueberry pie, you can submit that to, to the fair. So there's all sorts of different fair competition categories. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But the information's out there on it. You can find that.
Awesome. And it's coming up in a few weeks too, right? Middle of September.
Yep. Children's Day is, I think, September 24th, that Friday. So it should be fun. And I think we're having an insect zoo there too. So the kids,
Insect Day?
insect zoo, yeah.
Insect Zoo.
Yeah.
I won't be there.
Okay. That's it. They keep them all in like a little bus, so you'll be safe. There'll be nice pollinators and butterflies there, though.
Okay, those are okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Mariah, so much. I just wanted to give a last-minute pitch to our Lexington Manor Passive Park Community Garden. Feel free to check us out online. Mariah, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you doing this educational workshop for us.
Thank you. I'm glad to do it.
Thank you.